Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be painting this witchy night scene, so stay tuned. So I'm starting with a black rock again, and this is one that I found on my property. And I'm going to sketch in kind of the design. This is just so you can kind of see where we're going with this. It's a silhouetted house and tree with a witch. I don't stick to this design 100% once I get to painting, but it just kind of gives me an idea of where things are going to be located. But I've got to paint the background first, so I'm just kind of working out the design. So now I am actually painting the background, and I have to paint over the house because I want the windows to glow with the color that's in the background, like they're reflecting. So I'm taking some orange, a little bit of yellow, and this is kind of a dry, I'm not adding a lot of water to my paintbrush, and I'm not using, here I've got a lot of paint, but that's just because I'm trying to get it all over the background. But normally when I start building this color up, I'm not going to have a lot of wet paint on my brush. It's more dry. Now I've used a blow dryer to blow dry this. That's why I've disappeared off scene for there just a minute. It's just easier to blow dry it. Even though these thin layers do, they dry pretty fast, but I get impatient. So now I'm adding some yellow to this, and what I'm doing is kind of buffing it on with my little round blender brush, which is by Princeton Select. It's a number 6. I'm just kind of buffing this paint on. And you definitely want to do this against dry layers, or you'll take off the paint underneath. And if you're not careful, if you're not using a quality paint, even just the paint itself can remove layers underneath even when they're dry. So this method really kind of needs a more quality paint that isn't going to be pulled back off with the wetness of the paint you're using. So I'm going over with some black paint and just tidying up the ground. Now I'm adding a lighter yellow that's mixed with some white so that I want it to glow right here, kind of like there's a fire in the background somewhere in the distance. Maybe her cauldron is bubbling. I don't know. Anyway, I just dried my rock again. And now I'm using just a paint cap to put a moon in. That's a quick, easy way to get a perfect circle. Now I'm just using straight titanium white. And again, I'm still buffing this in. Thin layers. Now I'm adding a little bit of yellow to it and some white. I don't want the moon solid. I want you to be able to see some of the background through it. That's going to give kind of the texture on the moon. Instead of me having to paint it in, I'm just going to allow the background to show through, and that's going to give that moon some interest without having to paint it on there. Now I'm going to kind of sketch back in the house. Again, you're going to see how the design's going to change just a little bit. And all I have to worry about is this left edge of the house. The rest, it's all silhouetted, so everything on the right is just going to be black, so there doesn't need to be any detail other than this window. And see, now those windows, once I get them painted in, the background is going to show through those windows. Now I'm kind of sketching in where I want the tree to go and where I want my witch to go. And for black, I like to use the Liquitex black. It's an airbrush paint actually, and it's real thin, but it's real dark. So it goes on really smooth. As you can see, I'm just gonna paint everything but the windows. I'm gonna paint in black. But the window panes, the glass part, we're gonna leave the background showing through. And I'd had way too much coffee when I painted this, and so my hands were shaky, so I have to put the rock down and to try to get straight lines. It's not always good to drink a lot of coffee before you paint. You can't see everything really good because this paint has a little bit of a shine to it when it's wet, and there's kind of a little bit of a glare, but hopefully you can understand what it is I'm doing. This is the porch with the railings, and I'm just doing thin lines for the oh my gosh, what in the hand railing, whatever you call that thing. So now I'm gonna paint in the tree, and again, this is all just black. This is all just silhouetted in, which actually makes it really easy. The black makes that background really pop. I always get my head in the way. And again, I'm going to deviate from my design. Again, this happens all the time. You just want a bunch of little, craggly branches. This is when a shaky hand comes in real handy. I want them to go down in front of this moon a little bit to break it up so it looks like it's behind the tree. And then for the witch, it's just a straight line. And then for her body and her dress, it's basically a kind of a sloppy S, and then put her skirt on. And then just a line for her arm. And then this triangle for her hat. It's really easy, and I'll kind of modify her dress a little bit. You don't need a lot of detail there, you just need an outline. Now I'm just putting some color in to separate her chin from her arm. It all was just kind of one line, so I had to separate that out. Now I'm using a very thin line of an orange, and this is just going to give me a highlight on the edge of that house in certain spots to indicate the roof line. Now I dipped my paintbrush into some water, and I'm just removing the charcoal pencil lines. You definitely want to do this when everything is dry. Then you can remove all of this stuff and it's not going to hurt your painting. And there we go, we're all done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.